Today I'm going to talk. Excuse me. Today I'm going to talk about the latest game that I made. It's called The Stolen Crown. It's a fantasy RPG, very much inspired by the original Final Fantasy. Some might even say a ripoff of the original Final Fantasy. I want to say loosely inspired. Anyway, so the point of this video isn't to show necessarily gameplay, although I will. It's more just to talk about some of the, I guess, design decisions, some of the tech I used, and yeah, hopefully you'll be inspired to make your own RPG. But it is a soul crushing amount of work to finish, but it feels pretty good to be done. So I built the game using Pygame, which is a library with Python. It's a great library, probably not used for a ton of mainstream games, but I'm a big fan. And here it is, The Stolen Crown of Fantasy Mini RPG. Just right off the bat, you can hear music. This is called Adventure Begins by Bart. And if anyone has played my game Bouncy Shoes, it's actually, no, never mind. It's not called, it's actually called The King's Theme, sorry, by Teleron. My mistake. So anyways, one thing I did to do save games for this game was using a module called Pickle. And I used Pickle because it was super simple to use. Literally 2 lines of code, other than importing and stuff. It's just, I have a dictionary. Actually, I'll show it right now. I have a dictionary that I pass to every scene in the game. Sorry. And when I start the game, if you start a new game, you have this basically empty dictionary, and it has basically what the state of your quests are. For example, have you completed these quests? How much gold you have? How much health you have? How much magic you have? What equipment you have? If you take a look here, you start with 100 gold, a couple healing potions, a weapon, but no armor. But when you load your save game, basically all it does is Pickle loads up whatever dictionary that you saved that has all the game data in, and just starts you in the town. But I'll show you. Just start a new game. Now this is Adventure Begins, the music, by Bart, which is the same theme actually as Bouncy Shoes, my other game that I previously made. I have a video about that as well. Except this is kind of like a orchestral version. So I'll turn the volume down for now. And one design decision I made initially was, or actually by the end, kind of drew the overall map that led you directly to the town. Previously I had you actually up near here, and I just hoped you walked down to the town. But if you wandered up into the dungeon or somewhere else, you might have a bad time. So I not so subtly designed the land here to encourage you to go into the town. But also, if you take 10 steps, you'll go into a battle. So I wanted to throw you right into a battle right away so you can get a sense of the battle system, just to try and get you a sense of what the game is about right away. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. This is a battle music called High Action by someone else. I don't have the credit list handy, but I think it's kind of a fun, really intense music. The battle system took way longer than I thought it would be. When it works, you don't think about all the little details it took to make it work, but it was mind-numbing to get working. These little menus made from scratch, I had never made a menu before, I didn't know anything, but it works now. When you go into the attack mode, up and down, select each guy, and it basically works like Final Fantasy, like a turn-based RPG. Now, one thing is that you only have one guy, so you just attack, almost like Pokemon actually, and then the enemies attack in turn. But when you level up to level 3 or higher, you can actually do 2 actions per turn, and that I thought added a bit more strategy because in a normal RPG you have 3 or 4 people. So you can have a mage who does a cure spell while a warrior attacks, that kind of thing. But in this, by adding a second attack when you level up, it allows you to do a little more strategy. So this is the town. I should talk about tile maps. So I use a library called Pygame, which is a great library that loads any file you make in Tiled, another open source piece of software that allows you to make tile maps. Just a super simple way of making maps. In fact, I can show you right now. So here's, for example, the map for the overworld. All these hearts they're just invisible rectangles used to detect collisions, so you don't walk off so you can't walk beyond the grass. But yeah, so you just use the tile sets in Tiled, and then PyTMX, the library, loads that as a giant surface for your level, and then you just split whatever section you're currently on onto the screen. Another thing to point out is that I used basically just free art that I could find. I didn't want to use copyrighted art because I really wanted to do a true open source project, but as a result of that, you kind of get a mishmash of art styles in this project, which is fine, but it may look a little goofy sometimes. Yeah, so go back to the game. Here's some sprites you can talk to. If you look at right here, this document, I used this little bit of art throughout the entire game. I reuse it so much. If you look in the menu, oh, look at this. It's just the exact same piece of art, just scaled to a different ratio, to a different aspect ratio. The dialogue, and if you remember, if you look in the battle, here I'll walk into a battle. Again, I reused the exact same art. It just made it easier. I could have found more, but let's just say it makes you have a more consistent style. Let's call it that. But this is the exact same original piece of art, just scaled for the battle, for different sizes. Let's see. There's one mini quest in this game. You talk to this guy here. He says he's sick, and he has a brother in the northeast. So why don't we go try and meet the brother? But if you notice, now that you've talked to him once, his dialogue changed. It's now hurry to the northeast shores. I do not have much time left. Now, I think it's because I programmed it badly, but getting it so that the dialogue changes based on what level of quest you've completed so far. Maybe because I didn't think about it ahead of time, but man, was that kind of a pain in the ass to do. It's kind of complicated to talk about, but just kind of annoying. I have a remember I talked about that dictionary of game data. I guess I just keep track of what I've done. So when I talk to the guy the first time, I've completed quest, talk to first brother, for example. Okay, so my brother's sick. I'm not seen him for years. Oh, he has an elixir to give you. So now you've completed part 2 of this little side quest. So the game data records that. And now when I go back, if you look in the inventory, oh, look, I have an elixir. Look at that. So now when I go back to the brother, he'll know that I have an elixir. And I guess I'll attack these guys. And then I'll have completed the little side quest. Oh, look, I just leveled up to level 2. Now I should talk about the leveling, actually. One thing I experiment with is what happens when you level up. Because in RPG, you need to level up. And I experimented with having you have stronger attack and defense power and stuff. If you look at the stats, I found that if you improve your attack ability by level, I found it very difficult to balance things. I know there are ways to do it. Use a spreadsheet and you kind of calculate by time what your attack power should be based on what level you'll probably be at with this progress in the game. But I found it very difficult to balance. So what I did was leveling up. All it does is increase your total health and magic capacity. So if you look right here, health and magic went up to 87 and 84 respectively for the maximum amount. But your attack power and defense power stays exactly the same. Now to get better attack power and defense power, you buy better weapons, better armor. Which actually kind of makes more sense in a real world. Better armor, better weapons means you attack better. And as you progress through the game, you'll get more gold, and so you'll be able to buy these better and better weapons, which functions pretty much the same as if you were getting stronger attack abilities just by level. But it's way easier to manage balancing, I found, by doing it by leveling up just by equipment rather than like this amorphous, attack power based on your level. But right now, because you don't have any armor, it's at 0. But the more armor you get, stronger, it means you're less likely to get hurt, or the enemy's more likely to miss. Anyways, let's complete the little side quest. So I talked to the guy, I got the elixir. This guy's really sick. What does he say? Thank you for reaching my brother. This elixir will cure my ailment. I'll teach you a magic spell. And now you've learned Fire Blast, which, you know what, I think is a pretty fun spell to use. Maybe a little overpowered. First of all, let's just save in the inn. Again, kind of a ripoff of the original Final Fantasy, but you go to inns to restore your health, and it's also the only way to save your game, if you take a look at that. There's no save, and I actually really like that aspect about the original Final Fantasy. I know a lot of games, you're allowed to save multiple times in dungeons and stuff, but I always like the kind of hardcore way of you save in the inn or with a tent, and you just gotta pass that dungeon without dying, instead of these weird save points that don't actually make any sense in the world. I know they probably, in some games, explain it, but I never really bought it. I always found that kind of immersion breaking. So, let's try out the fire spell. What else to say? Here we go, magic. So you just go down to magic. There's Fire Blast. And for the basic easy guys in the overworld, it's almost an insta kill. But if you take a look, it uses about 40 MP or something. So it's pretty expensive magic wise, but it's pretty fun. Another little thing, I don't know if you can hear it, but hear that click? I don't think about sound effects all that often when I play games, but it really adds to the experience. I found that if you actually add these little tiny sound effects, little affirmations that the player did something, it really goes a long way. So let's buy some armor. One thing I found when I was playtesting with other people, I was letting people play the game, was that they would buy armor or weapons, but they wouldn't equip them. They would forget to. And it never occurred to me that people would forget to equip their weapons and armor. So what I did was, when you buy a weapon, a new weapon or a new piece of armor, it's automatically equipped. So I'll buy the chainmail. And if you take a look, chainmail equipped automatically. Same thing, I'll buy a wooden shield, equipped automatically. And if I want, I can unequip them. But there's no real reason to do that because that's the only armor you can get in the game. Yeah. And if you look at the stats, your defense power is now 5. So now, when you attack the guys in the overworld, they'll barely be able to attack you because you've quote-unquote leveled up with your armor. Let's see what... So I have a 33. If you talk to the king, he'll send you on your quest to fight the sorcerer. Basically, the sorcerer, there's not much of a backstory, but he's stolen his magic crown that I guess protects the town. And you gotta go to that northwest scary castle and retrieve it. And he gives you 100 gold for your trouble. He pays you up front, although he doesn't actually pay you. He doesn't pay you when you succeed, he just pays you up front. I don't know if that's a good business model for a king. So I need 150 gold to buy the longsword, which is pretty useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell one of oh, no, that's not going to work. I don't have enough healing potions to sell to make enough money to buy the longsword. So what I'll do, and you can't actually, so you have a rapier here. You can't sell a weapon that's equipped. I made that as a rule. Just made things more simple, because what does it mean to fight without a weapon? To me, that didn't make any sense. How can you fight a monster without a weapon? So you always have to have a weapon, and that's just a rule I made. But that means that you have to buy a new weapon, and then once you bought that new weapon, then you can sell your old one. So I'm just going to fight a couple monsters and get some money. And then, 48 gold, so that should be enough to buy the longsword. And another kind of tricky thing I found was when you buy the weapon in the shop, you have the option to keep on shopping in the same shop. So take a look at this. So I'm going to buy the longsword. I have 180 gold. Great. So item purchase. Great. So now, like I said before, things are auto-equipped. And it's auto-equipped as soon as you buy it. So right now, that rapier is unequipped. So if I try and sell the longsword, it says you can't sell an equipped weapon because it's equipped automatically. But the rapier was unequipped automatically because you can only have one weapon equipped at a time. Oh, look, I can sell it too. So I have 56 gold. I guess maybe I'll buy one healing potion or maybe an ether potion. And how about we go to the inn one last time and let's go get that crown. One thing I should talk about is actually this little character here. There is a invisible square around this character that basically prevents them from wandering too far. Because I didn't want them to kind of wander off into like a corner over here, and then all of a sudden it just looks kind of strange. So what I did was there's this invisible rectangles around her, and basically prevents her from wandering too far. And the devil up here is actually a friendly devil. You can't fight him. He has the same thing. They're actually synced. You don't really notice it because, oh, maybe they're not synced. Never mind. Let's just ignore that. Okay, so let's go to the castle. Again, kind of a rip-off. Oh, here we go. So as you'll see, they'll try to attack me, but because I have the equipped armor, their attacks are way less powerful. So ones or misses, basically. So once you buy that armor, man, these guys are so weak. But what I did was, once you enter the castle, if you have the armor equipped, those guys do as much damage as the guys in the overworld when you don't have armor. Again, just kind of a way of scaling things or balancing things as you progress without tying it necessarily to, oh, look at this, I'm at level 3. So now you can do 2 actions per turn, like I talked about earlier. But yeah, like what I was saying is, the game is assuming you bought a longsword and you equip that armor, so that when you fight in the dungeon, everything will actually be about just as difficult as the overworld without those things equipped. Again, just trying a way of scaling things. I really like the music for the dungeon. It's kind of sinister. Like I said, and you can notice that now you can do 2 actions per turn. There's only one guy there, so not very exciting. But hopefully I'll get in another battle soon. Treasure chests? Yeah. You get a healing potion. For whatever reason, it's surprisingly difficult to implement. Just the way I didn't code. The way I did dialogue boxes and stuff, and the way to get items, I didn't code them assuming there would be treasure boxes. So it was kind of hacky to get it to work, but it works, and look, the little box is open. If you look at these stairs are the only artwork that I actually did from scratch by myself. It is literally a blue square with 3 white rectangles, but it looks like stairs to me. One thing I did actually later on was, if the music is the same between 2 different scenes, so I go between the first level of the dungeon to the second level, the music is actually the same. And what I did was, if the program knows that when I switch scenes, if the music is the exact same, it doesn't start again. It just keeps on going. But if it knows that the music is different, like say if I'm in this dungeon and then go to a battle, it'll switch to the new music and start from the beginning. Otherwise, it just continues to go. Before, it would always reset the music, and I found that kind of annoying. Oh, this will be fun. This is a real battle. So this is my first attack, and this is my second action. Now that was a dumb move, because if I kill this guy on my first move, and if I try and attack him a second time when he's dead, the battle system will automatically just switch to the next guy, which actually the original Final Fantasy didn't have. The original Final Fantasy, if you tried to attack a guy that was actually already dead because you had multiple quest members, you would just miss. Which, I'll admit, it was a pretty silly design decision, but it was one of the first RPGs, so I'll let it slide. But I think that's one of the things probably game designers have learned, is it's kind of a dumb idea. Why would you just miss? The guy can react in the spur of the moment to switch where he's attacking. But I just noticed my health is awfully low. Not the most inspired sound effect in the world, but you know, you make do what you have. The dungeon design is very much inspired by that first Final Fantasy. It's kind of mazy, and this is kind of like I guess the Sky Temple, I think it was called, in the original. And it's a bit of a maze, because if you go down to the left, that goes to a different second dungeon. But if you take this one on the right, that'll take you to the dungeon level just before the final dungeon level. So it's tricky, but that's what I do. Here we go. And we're gonna fight the wizard, or the evil sorcerer. And the evil sorcerer has 100 health and pretty strong attack. The odds are, if you have relatively full health, you're not going to die fighting the sorcerer. You have to be pretty unlucky. See right there, he only did 1 damage. He might even be a little too easy. I'm not sure. But you do have to fight your way out of the dungeon again. I made the choice that when you defeat the sorcerer, you have to actually fight your way out. I know in a lot of games they'll have like a little portal that'll transport you back out of it right away. But you know, what's the fun in that? Let's make it a little more challenging. Alright, so the guy's gone now, you've defeated it, and if you notice, you have a little crown here, which signifies you got the crown. And the reason I did that is because I realized there's no place to put just random items in your inventory, because there's weapons, armor, and potions, but it would be weird to have a crown and potions, and it doesn't really fit anywhere else. But I thought it looked kind of cool to have a little crown symbol demonstrating you completed that quest. But Okay, so now all we have to do is make our way out of the dungeon, and we can deliver the quest, or deliver the crown. Okay, so I don't really want to fight these guys, so let's just do a fire blast. Nice. And I'm at level 4 already. Look at that. There's actually a cure spell you can buy in the magic shop, but it doesn't really, it's not super necessary actually to play the game and to beat it. I wanted to have a cure spell just because I think that's important for RPG, but it's super unnecessary because healing potions are relatively cheap, but yeah. I'm not sure what else to talk about the designing the game. I was reading some comments earlier today about making RPGs and the warning about never making an RPG because they're way more work than you think with not as much. You don't get as much out of it as you put into it because they're ridiculously time intensive to make. Way more than you think they would be because this looks simple, but it's honestly way more complicated than something like a platformer, which looks a platformer looks complicated, but in many ways is not that hard to make if you've already made one, of course. But an RPG, there's so much going on that it's like 3 games in one. There's a shop system, is like its own little game. You have wandering around the overworld or a map. That's like another little game. There's a battle system. And you have to manage all the quests and stuff, and the armor and the items. It's tough. You hear that? It's kind of triumphant music. When you complete the crown, when you defeat the wizard, you get this triumphant music as you arrive in the town. Kind of swells up. It's exciting. And if you take a look, I'll show you that cure spell. It's 50 gold, pretty cheap. But it's kind of unnecessary at this point. And now let's just talk to the king and get this over with. This dialogue is pretty bad, but oh well. My crown, you recovered my stolen crown. I cannot believe what I see before my eyes. You are truly a brave and noble warrior. Henceforth, I name the Grand Protector of this town. You are the greatest warrior this world has ever known. Pretty bad dialogue, I'll admit, but that's okay. And that's the game. It just goes to the credits from now on. I did my best to credit absolutely everyone all the artwork, oh there's me, all the artwork I used, I did my best to make sure I included everyone I used. These are all the different sources I found art from, mostly on opengameart.org. All the music, again, I'm pretty sure that's everybody, but sound effects, things like the sword attack and the flame and the clicks and stuff. And special thanks. Leaf Theeden was the one who made PyTMX, which, again, special thanks to them. And that's the game. And yeah, so to sum up, if you want to make an RPG, please make, for your first RPG, I think, try and make a simple one like this one, like where this is what I would call a minimally viable RPG. And what I mean by that is it has all the tropes of an RPG. It has a battle system. It has leveling up. It has quests. It has wizards. It has magic. It has monsters. It has everything you need in an RPG, in my opinion, but no more. You know, it is the minimal viable. So because anything less than what I have on the screen or in the game, in my opinion, it wouldn't really be a complete RPG engine. It would be missing something. But hypothetically, if I wanted, I could expand the game out and make more quests, make a bigger story if I wanted. Although I don't really want to at this point. I'm probably going to move on to something else. But if you want to make an RPG, please make a very small one initially, just to see if you even like making an RPG. again, kind of soul crushing to work on because it's just so much work. And then from there, now that you've learned so much, make your dream RPG as the second RPG you make. Don't make your first RPG your dream RPG because you'll spend 5 years working on it and probably never finish. RPGs are like this classic trap that programmers seem to get stuck in. But if you deliberately shrink your scope to something that's probably almost too basic for you, it'll be way more work than you even expect. And at least you'll get something done. Because I consider this mini RPG as done, even though it's not a huge, even compared to the original Final Fantasy, it's not even close to that scope. But at least it's done. It's a thing that is in the world. And in the future, I do want to make an RPG, like a real full with good art and a real story that's not just a ripoff of Final Fantasy. But here it is. This was done in Pygame and Python, and it's called The Stolen Crown, and I hope you liked watching and me discussing a little bit of my process. And thanks again.